All right, everyone. We've given it a few seconds for the internet to catch up to all the places. Welcome back to season 6, episode 1 of the Level Up Your Wealth podcast, where we talk about the gaming industry from a business perspective. One of your hosts, Marcus Howard. Mario couldn't join us today. He had a schedule conflict, but we're thrilled. I'm thrilled, and I'm sure he's also thrilled to feature Sean as a guest for this episode. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hey, Marcus, how's it going?
Awesome. I have a PlayStation right here, my PlayStation 1. I'm really excited to talk to you about Sony and all things PlayStation. I have my old Nintendo here.
The OG.
Play favorites here. I got a Nintendo too, but I've been playing video games a long time, and so it's always a thrill for me to just speak to folks who have been as excited about and supportive of this industry for it to reach where it is today as you are. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you. Thanks for joining.
Well, it's great to be here.
What we're going to do before we jump into this, we got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to play a quick game. It's called Rise of Elements. I hope you had a chance to practice. It's a match 3 game.
For about 3 minutes. Yes, I did.
3 minutes. All right. So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay. And
we're playing the timed version. So I'll let you start on your turn just to give you, that fair early chance, since I've played this a couple of times.
Okay. Enemy turn.
I'm going to wait my turn out. So what you want to do is just match 3 things. It's a mix between like Candy Crush Saga and League of Legends.
Yeah, but I think you have control. Okay, my turn.
Your turn now. Yep.
Okay.
You have about 10 seconds to make as many matches as you can. Now it's my turn. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, you get the point for that one. I set that up for you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm losing my mind here. Okay.
I don't see any matches. I don't see any matches. Maybe should move this to right as it was showing me the possible match. The term ended. Still don't. What happened to? I lost that screen. Whoa! Oh, you get another turn then. I lost that screen. Oh, there goes Matt. Oh, I lost the match.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I'm super confused.
I'm missing. Okay, here we go. I got one.
Go for it.
Oh, I didn't get another one.
Right then.
I lost it again. Where did it go? Okay. Let's see. Oh, and you got that point.
The diagonal doesn't work. Okay.
Diagonal, I don't think it's vertical and horizontal.
Right.
There's gonna be some matches here. Oh, no, that's not a match either.
Yikes.
I used to be good at this. When I played this 2 weeks ago, I was really good at this.
I used to be good at this when I was 17 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see one. No, I missed it. So close. You got 2 matches right there. Let's see. Got one here. Got one here. Any more? One more. Oh, I missed it.
You're making good headway there for a minute there, Marcus.
It's the combo breaker.
Nice.
That's interesting. When it gives you the hint, I can see the hint as well.
So it's your first move. Yeah.
Yeah, the very first move the next turn.
Oh, I didn't get a hint. Damn it. Nice.
red one. There's gotta be like a yellow one connected to something. No. This match is supposed to go a lot faster than 2 minutes, but both of us are
Nice.
match impaired today.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. We can call it. We can call it. I really want to get back to the conversation.
Let's call it a draw.
Let's call it. I think you win. You win. You get the guest advantage. So we'll call that a win. All right.
Boom.
All right.
We're gone.
Yeah. So thanks for indulging that. From an indie studio, it's designed to be something that you can play quickly and in your spare time. So it's supposed to be more accessible in that regard. And I know that you mentioned shorter games in your interview for Eurogamer. If you don't mind, if you'll talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to rewind the clock, and I want to talk to you about you breaking into the industry.
Okay. Do you want to close this web game, or?
Let me do that. Yeah. It is still open. Thank you.
I'm getting weird pan flute in my ear.
I think I still have weird pan flute in my ear. So one of these things is still open. Here. There we go. So yeah, can you share a little bit about your thesis on shorter games?
The thesis has come up, it's come from a number of different directions. One of the catalysts to the thought is that you look at some data about how many people don't finish games, how many people, bag out around 40, 50, 60% into the game and don't see the rest of it. But so you look at that and you wonder, am I building a lot of game out there which is only being seen by a small slice of the audience? And what if I made a tighter game experience? Would more people see it to the end? So we think about that question. We think about the cost of making games and how expensive it is these days. It was one thing back in PlayStation 1 to code a game and cram it into 770 megabytes of a compact disc at 480p or something like that. It didn't take up that much asset and footage and art and all of that. But now we're working in 4K or 8K art, fully open worlds, people expecting to be able to go anywhere and do anything. That also takes a long time to build, and costs associated with games are simply salaries against time. How many people are working, how much they're making, how much long it takes them to get there. So looking at all these different factors and the crushing cost of the rising price of gaming, one of the things we're looking at is, do we have to go back and explore what is that really 15 to 20 hour game experience, a really sweet spot? I would like a game that was 20 hours long, but I wouldn't want to let down the controller. Something that really just ties me in. I have to see it to the end. I think those kinds of experiences are what we need more of. It happens a lot in the indie space, but certainly at AAA now, it's those kinds of games seem to be getting thin on the ground.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's sometimes for me frustrating to see filler content where it feels like I'm backtracking just for the sake of more
grinding.
Hours.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, like, I don't know if you've ever seen like Naruto or any anime or cartoon, whatever TV show. Like, you can tell where there's main story episodes and when there's filler content episodes.
Right.
You're like, where's the rest of the story, right?
Exactly.
And I'm in the same spot. I have 4 young ones and I do a lot of consulting, and so I don't have a whole lot of time, as much as I'd love to play video games. And so when I get games, I don't even boot up the ones that I know take a lot of time. Like, my brother sent me Spider-Man 2, or the first Spider-Man, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, and it's the Miles Morales edition. And I played the first 15 minutes of it. It was amazing. And then I've had kids since then, and I have less time. And now when I look at the CDs, I don't even want to put that in the PlayStation because I can't emotionally invest. I know I don't have the bandwidth to emotionally invest the time in order to play it and enjoy it thoroughly, because it's so much time in order to get to completion or even 100%.
And the gaming audience has developed over time, right? When in the PlayStation 1 era, probably the average age of gamers were 18 to 22. You have a lot more time when you're 18 years old. And now with the average age of gamers, into the 30s, people like yourself, Marcus, you're time poor. And you're right. I mean, I haven't taken the shrink wrap off of Red Dead Redemption 2 for the same reason. I don't know when I'm going to have 90 hours to sit down
it's intimidating.
It is.
But in a good way. Kudos to the teams for putting all that work in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would feel more accomplished if there was something I can look at and say, this is only going to take 20 hours of my time. I can finish it. Maybe it will take me 3 months or a month, depending on my schedule, and then start the next game.
And you can realistically have the ambition to reach the end of it.
Yeah.
You can complete it, right?
Do you think that will make us have more games if people are focused on shorter games, or less games if people are more focused on the quality of the experience versus the quantity amount of time in that 20 hours?
I think on the idea of shorter games, I don't think I'd go into a project with the primary goal to make a short game.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would do is when I go into a project, look at how much do I need to tell a compelling story? Just how much content is required to be in there for the user to feel that, the player to feel that I got into a story, I got into the whole thing, I had a great experience, it was very entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and I completed it. Rather than worrying exactly how many hours that is. But but you're right to that point that a lot of games have a lot of play hours, but they're not all quality hours, people. Let's be honest with each other. And to your point, not all of that time pushes the narrative along.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of side quests and, go get the red key to open up the blue door and whatever. But is it really moving the storyline along? And I think if we get to tighter packages around that, should take less time to build, should take less time to complete, and maybe you can burn through your backlog faster. It became a more achievable size.
Wishful thinking for gamers around the world.
Yeah,
it's the never-ending backlog.
Inbox on email, right?
Yeah. So again, I rewind a bit back. I read those articles and I was pleasantly surprised to learn that I guess you hadn't worked in gaming before you started at Sony. Is that correct?
No. Wasn't much of a gaming industry before I started at Sony. I started at Sony in 1987.
Yeah.
But no, PlayStation was my first opportunity.
Yeah. And then you I guess you had 30 years there or thereabouts, 25, 30?
32 years at Sony, and within that 32, 23 of them with PlayStation.
Okay. So then you were, I think I read that at the genesis, not at the launch, but the genesis of the PlayStation as a brand, as a technology.
Yeah, I was still in corporate when the first product was announced before they launched it. And, we saw demos and things of that type, but I didn't join the PlayStation team until May of 96.
You were already living in Tokyo, is that correct?
Yeah. I moved to Japan in 1987 to work for Sony.
Okay.
I worked there in Tokyo.
So did they have a US team? Or I've had a little bit of experience working with companies from Japan, and that the culture seems very domestic. So if you want that opportunity, you have to relocate. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge, Sony of America, Sony Electronics teams all here in the United States. But I got hired in 87 because Sony had a program. They were trying to internationalize their headquarters staff. So you could say I was a diversity hire in 1987.
And you've had 30 successful years in the industry. What's your take on ageism, if you don't mind? Because I think that anyone who sees any content that you share, and I share a lot of it and read a lot of it, it exudes wisdom. And that wisdom, I think, is a function of the time that you've invested and the experience you've gained. But I had a guest, I don't know if you know Vincent, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Vincent also has 20 or 30 years in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guest on my podcast and was talking about people basically not giving him a fair chance at opportunities because of his age.
I personally didn't see much of that myself. I hear stories in the industry of, all across tech, frankly. It's not just in gaming. We didn't have that issue at the Sony shop so much. We had a lot of vintage developer types like myself and others there. I think there's so much that experience brings to you in the creation of something as complicated as a video game. And people who've had a chance or the opportunity to do that many, many times over are invaluable to teams. If you bring a whole team together and we all have ambition, but none of us have ever shipped a game, your chances for success are not very high. So it's good to have some experience in the room and to value that, because one of the other problems in our industry, because we move so fast and we're always trying to create new things, we don't seem to have much of a we don't have a very good institutional memory
Mm-hmm.
about what we've done in this space and what's happened before in the past. And so sometimes we keep making the same mistake or trying the same thing over and over and over again and not getting a very good result. For example, every time there was a PlayStation 1 or 2 or every generation of PlayStation come around, someone in some meeting every time would say, why don't we make educational entertainment? This is it's in the living rooms across the world and children in the living rooms, and we can teach them math or reading or something with their PlayStation. And every generation has some educational games that come out for it, and they never seem to catch fire. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure someone's having that conversation right now in the PlayStation 5 generation, and I would just advise them to please look at the past. Mm-hmm. Please research what's happened before you try to get that one off the ground again.
How does the saying go? Those who don't learn from history
just repeat it.
Yeah. You mentioned Red Dead Redemption is still shrink wrapped.
Yes.
And I think that won Game of the Year. So your taste in games is quality. What game are you playing now?
What game am I playing now? I'll be honest with you. I haven't played many games the last few months. Other stuff's been going on, been kind of busy. But the one game that goes with me everywhere is Everybody's Golf, Hot Shots Golf. That sits in my Vita. That travels with me everywhere I go.
I have my Vita.
Yeah, get your Vita out. That's the fellow.
Sony was ahead of the game. It's interesting to see. Obviously, the Switch is more mobile, but now to see Asus and Steam now move into, I guess, it's that handheld, maybe the official term. But Sony was ahead of its time.
Well, Sony was, but Nintendo got there first with Game Boy.
That's true. Pay respects where respects are due.
Absolutely,
definitely broke the mold. Yeah. I was sad to see that be retired, and I still have mine at works. And ironically, you say educational games that in the operating system there are some at least numbers games in here, and so I was able to help explain the value of games beyond entertainment to my wife, and I was like, look, my daughter, look how quickly she can get a 10.
Yeah, it's the handheld space is interesting. It's because you also have mobile games that kind of intersect in there, and it's a weird Venn diagram between those three little areas. But it does feed a particular enthusiasm or scratches a particular itch. When you're having your console experience, you get down, you get your drink, you get your snack, you settle in, you're going to have this thing go out. You're in your mobile phone thing. That's really just, I'm waiting at the restaurant, my buddy's late. But the handheld is somewhere in between those two spaces. It's more intentional, but still kind of spontaneous. And making the right kind of game for that form factor is also a tricky bit of business.
I can imagine. I have a hobbyist developer experience. I never got anything published, but I can imagine.
Yeah, because what you want, with Vita, we made probably some strategic missteps by thinking people wanted a console experience in their hand. The 10-foot experience right in your palm. Yeah. And that, in the end, that wasn't what people were looking for. They were looking for a good handheld experience in their hand.
Right. And that's a different type of game.
It's a different type of game.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, your time at PlayStation, and I saw in the article that you all were planning on partnering with Nintendo, and then you decided instead to build your own device. Because you have more experience in the wider Sony ecosystem, I have not experienced this. Have you seen consoles integrating with Sony TVs? Is that a thing? I've always wondered that.
There was. I don't recall any physical integration. I mean, you'd sell them as a bundle quite often.
Right.
But not like back in the day where you could get a VHS, tape deck inside of a TV housing. No, I don't think we ever did that. I mean, there was something called PSX for a brief shining moment, which was trying to fill kind of a DVR space, I think, as well as being a game machine, but that didn't last. But so no, we never had an integration with the TV cabinet.
Okay, because I remember I also bought, I think it was PlayStation TV or Move. I think
Yeah,
it was.
there was a PlayStation TV that came out that was doing 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Move became PSVR or
right. And then we had the
some.
Move controllers, and then
Yeah.
they became the adjunct to the PSVR. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, a lot of pieces of hardware going around.
You also, I think, have insight into indies and the innovation happening in the space. Do you think, given the layoffs we've seen over the unfortunate layoffs of the last 2 or 3 years, we'll see almost like a new resurgence, like a new golden age of the gaming industry driven by indies?
Well, that would be great if we could get there, and I would like to see that happen. Certainly, I think the recent layoffs across the industry has released a lot of talent into
Mhm.
the an unrestricted space, if you will. So you
Yep.
see a lot of new studios popping up, people coming together, bringing their skills from their previous experiences and trying to create something new for themselves and not be beholden to huge conglomerate consolidated publishing empires. So yeah, I think that's where the new stuff will come from. We also need to get not just all those people back into a game development opportunity, but we need to get more people into game development. We need more people making games in order to get more people playing games. And I think I think the indie space perhaps allows the opportunity for that too, to get some new ideas, some new blood, some ideas that maybe large publishers would feel reluctant to get behind 100%, but people with a vision and a purpose sometimes can pull together and make amazing stuff.
I think that is the story behind Rocket League, if I remember correctly. EA,
Oh,
I think, had that
psionics, yeah,
opportunity. Yeah, Psionics. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, they're out there. The next crazy game is definitely out there waiting to be found.
Hmm. You, I think the article said that you're very busy. You mentioned here, 3 months, been very busy, not many games played. Can you talk about um, what's keeping you busy, or how your busyness has evolved now that I assume you're retired or formally retired from being chairman, at least?
Yes, and so I have a number of advisories or consultancies I work with. I have a couple of startups that I sit on the board of to help them,
Mhm.
make their way along. And I'm spending a bit of time with my the nonprofit I sit on the board of called Girls Make Games. It's been
Oh,
around
okay.
for about 10 years now, I guess. And every summer we run boot camps for young women from the ages of 8 to 16 to come together and code a game demo in 30 days. It's pretty exciting. And now we have a scholarship fund attached to that. So we're providing scholarships to a handful of young women when they go to university from the program. So yeah, that kind of stuff kind of keeps me busy. And of course, with the 30th anniversary of the PlayStation happening this month, um, there's been a lot of press interest about the last 30 years and where do we see the industry going.
Are you going to get? I don't know. I think they sold out really quickly. Will you be getting a 30th year anniversary edition console?
I think I'm going to skip that one. I just
Yeah.
I only have so much space in my living room.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna miss that one as well. But I've been a PlayStation fan for years, and I guess I already have the classic one. So I have the PS3 or PS4 rather, and this one. So maybe I'm covered there.
I think you're covered.
Yeah. Speaking on the future of games, I agree with you that there's not not kind of a discernible leap compared to PS1 to PS2, PS2 to
Mm,
PS3, 4 to
hmm
5. Do you think that there will be opportunities to create value and immersion in other areas? So maybe more haptics or scent, just to because I think I agree with you. We've kind of reached the plateau in graphics. Like that's the reason that I only have my PS4. I can't justify upgrading right now.
mm,
There are some
mm.
games that I can't play because of it, but I still get so much value from the PS4 that the upgrade doesn't make sense for me and my family.
Yeah, it's tough that that curve, that innovation curve is flattening against that. And
Mm,
yeah, we'll see nothing like the leap from PS1 to PS2, which was
yeah.
mind bending. Um, so I think certainly in the input output in the game controller, I think there's a lot of room for innovation around that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's also one of the challenges, right? If you look at a game controller, there's something like 19 buttons on it, and if you're not a gamer, that's super intimidating. It's hard to
Yeah.
say, "Hey, pick that up and jump in this game." And if you don't feel comfortable with it, you'll definitely be put off by it. So any advances we can make in the input output piece of that, the user connect piece. Um, but yeah, on the console side itself, I think I think we've kind of tapped out on that, and we chase photorealism, but we're never going to get there, and it's super expensive to do. So we need to rethink that. And yeah, I mean, there's going to come a time when the idea of competing consoles will seem anachronistic.
Yeah, I agree. And I also agree about the need for simplistic input for controllers. I remember when I was 6, my parents got me Super Mario Brothers 3, and I have a twin brother, and my younger sister and I were all playing. My dad walks in the room like, "Hey, Dad, why don't you come try this game?" And it's the first level, right? So you run and then you have to fly over that first hole, but
Right.
you have to use like your thumb on both buttons in order to do that. And it was too complicated of a concept for him with just those 2 buttons. He fell right into the hole. He's like, "This is not for me. Y'all have fun." It's too complicated.
Yeah, it's intimidating, and we have to get past that barrier in order for games to reach that kind of ubiquity that movies and music enjoy.
Do you see any potential? And I know you mentioned education, which has its own challenges because you're right, things haven't really taken off there the way they should over the years. But
Yeah, you think it would work, right? But it just doesn't ever seem to work.
it does. Mario Teaches Typing helped me. Typing of the Dead. All the typing references there.
Oh yeah, Typing of the Dead. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that there's a mix of, there's a formula there, which you need to have the fun first and then learn something as a byproduct of that fun.
Right.
And I haven't really seen anyone kind of crack that formula yet.
No, it seems to really, as an educational piece, look like the Carmen Sandiego series. It really works better in a PC environment because so much of it's up close work and you're really concentrating on what's going on and you're trying to parse all the different pieces of the scene. Where I don't know if it's laying back on the sofa and doing that is the same sort of intimacy.
Did you ever get into game development yourself, or like working on any in these games or concepts, or did you have that opportunity with all your other responsibilities?
I think the last time I actually coded a game myself was in 1974 when I was working on a PDP-8 through an acoustic coupler to the school board's mainframe and typing in a little tic-tac-toe game. That was the sum total of my coding experience. But we like to just have the influence in the gaming area. I began by licensing games and bringing them from the West to bring them into Japan, and really had the privileges working with a number of different teams, making all sorts of different games, from Gran Turismo on this side to like Parappa the Rapper over here. We had a lot of variety in PS1 and PS2, of course, because development budgets were smaller, so you could take a lot of chances at $1 million ago or $2 million ago. So yeah, I just enjoyed the entire range and breadth of the gaming experience. So many different ways to enjoy it, and I guess what I'm saying is today we're lacking the kind of variety we had 15 years ago.
You mentioned Parappa the Rapper. By chance, did you play Patapon?
Oh, of course. Yeah, Patapon, Loco Roco, all those guys. Yeah, those are great games. Fabulous. Yeah. And those are good handheld experiences because they're built for that format.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an opportunity in I think, we look at the $200 billion gaming industry, depending on 300 billion, depending on who you're talking to. And that's primarily B2C, right? Consumers, gamers as the consumers. What about like B2B2C? So, for example, Chick-fil-A just relaunched their own game, right? For brand engagement. It's not gonna be a top charting title on Steam or PlayStation, but I think it served its purpose. Is there an opportunity for more of that?
Well, you're probably too young to remember when Burger King made a game.
I am too young to remember.
Yeah, I think that was PS1 or maybe it was PS2. Yeah, there's a Burger King game that came out.
Yeah.
Chase the King or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will dabble around the edges with that, but I don't think people want to sit down with a branded game per se. Because you just feel like you're just being totally marketed to the entire time.
That's true.
No, what I want to see more is how do we get C2C? Right?
Yeah.
What can we do to encourage, more small board games or, homebrew stuff? And what kind of marketplace can we create where you can put a game together and you put it in your marketplace and I can buy it from you and the money goes to you and it doesn't go off into some platform or, maybe there's 10% margin. You've got to pay some marketplace to carry your stuff. But to engender that, to get more people able to trade against each other, or even if it's just downloadable content, you like to make red hats or blue swords or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What kind of a marketplace can we create? We still haven't got to that place yet, and I think when we can do that, we'll unlock a lot more creativity by doing that.
Okay, so is that more like a Fortnite, kind of the islands model they have, or like a Roblox?
Well, a kind of a model where you can trade those items without necessarily having to be in that game experience.
Okay.
We can create marketplaces which sit outside of games, which are just for gamers. Or you can buy stuff for this game there, you can buy stuff for that game there, stuff that UGC that's made by the players themselves, and put up on the store. I'm hoping to see that coming in about 3 to 5 years. I think that can really create some more opportunity for young teams and budget constrained teams. So we're trying to just get their way into the business. So we need to create more on ramps like that.
It sounds like you're talking about interoperability, which sounds a bit more like blockchain. I don't know if that's your vision or something different, but I've been in this space for 10 years, or more than 10 years, and I've seen. I agree with that thesis. I don't know if anyone. That's another one of those formulas that people are trying to get right, trying to code, they're trying to crack. But I 100% agree with you. We need to be able to have assets that exist across multiple games. The walled garden has always been frustrating for me.
Yeah, and again, where consoles are sort of topping out on their features, on their power, on how much compute can you put in your living room. If we can come to a generally accepted global game standard, like we did with DVD, like we did with Blu-ray, and have everyone support that, then I think we get a lot of innovation if you can just compete on content and not worry about under your team green or your team blue.
Does that create a challenge for the generation of gamers that like to just play like one game? So like this last week, I put almost 15 hours into Marvel Rivals, the new hero shooter, if you will. And so that 15 hours can't go to another game. There's an opportunity to cost for my time. I can't keep staying up at 1 o'clock in the morning if I have to wake up at 6 when my kids wake me up. Do you have any thoughts on how we might be able to navigate that?
That is an issue, or not an issue is probably the wrong word. That is a reality today, that people are playing fewer discrete games than they've ever done in the past. I mean, back on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, publishers used to have a metric called tie ratio, which meant for every piece of hardware you could sell, what is the lifetime anticipated number of games you can sell against that? So one console turns into 18 games sold over time, or 27 games sold over time. Publishers have stopped tracking that metric because it's no longer indicative of the marketplace. People, to your point, are buying a console and playing 2 games. Yeah, but they're playing them all the time, right? People have their live service experience over here. Maybe they're in Fortnite or GTA Online, and then the other game they play is FIFA, and that's it, right? So there's a lot of those situations. That's why the market's getting tougher. You're seeing games being launched that normally would easily pick up 300, 400,000 units on launch day are struggling to get their number up. I think we're learning some facts about gravity in the world of live service gaming, that there's a lot of opportunity there. So there's a lot of money there, the recurring revenue model, but there's only like 4 or 5 lanes that exist. And those are all pretty much taken right now. So, excuse me, something like Marvel Rivals comes in and that gets some attention in that area, and they can break through power of an IP. But a lot of people are chasing that category of games as service or live service gaming, and there have been some spectacular train wrecks over the last 18 months on that. Agreed.
And I agree with you as well that it's the IP, right? I was just having that conversation with someone else. Just a second, I wanted to give a shout out to Jonathan, who's is giving us a recommendation, and thanks for the chat. Jonathan, and anyone else who's viewing, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. Happy to share those so that you can hear from Sean about that. But yeah, I agree that the IP is what helps make that stand out, right? You've got people who play Marvel games who are going to play this game, but you also have people who may not necessarily play Marvel video games or play video games as a whole, but are otherwise over-indexing their investment into the Marvel ecosystem. So like Marvel cartoons and Marvel comic books and Marvel trading cards, Marvel movies. This gives them an opportunity, especially because some of the designs of that IP are from designs based on characters from movies, to introduce them into gaming where they might not play otherwise.
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, Rivals has been really well executed as a game. It comes together, it's tight. People seem to be liking it, and that's the other thing too. You know, the greatest IP in the world can't cure for bad gameplay.
Yeah, has to be fun first, and then you need strong IP. It has to be well executed.
Yep.
Yeah. What kind of games are you looking forward to next year? Or are you just so busy right now, you're going to take a break from games for a little bit?
Well, I have kind of taken a break from games. I'm looking more at the industry and the overall, and that's why, Marcus, you know, your podcast, and thank you for inviting me on here, was of great interest to me because you talk more about the business of gaming rather than, you know, what's your favorite character in this RPG over there, which I think is something that we don't talk enough about. You know, gaming is big in so many people's lives, but they're not really sure how it gets there and what it takes to make it. And the more understanding we have around that, I think people may get better understanding of why games are late or why, you know, every game starts off with a great idea, right? No one starts building their game thinking this is going to be a C-level game. No, you're shooting for the moon every time. But sometimes you don't get there. And, you know, I see some of the aggro, certainly in social media, where people are dunking on developers who've had a bad launch or their game is late or something's going on. And some of it is so strong and unhelpful, certainly. Almost as if they think the developers did it on purpose to try to make everyone angry, or I don't know. People, it's a hard thing. If it were easy to do, everyone would be doing it. Video games are super hard, and the courage, the ambition, just to spend 5 years of your life to try to put something together, put it out there, and hope everyone loves it. That takes a lot of courage.
Like trying to capture lightning in a bottle, right?
Exactly, and catch it on time and catch it on budget.
On time and on budget, yeah, right. So next to impossible. You might as well play the lottery. Do you think more education, getting more, like you said, getting more gamers as content creators will help endear gamers to what it is that developers go through? Because I agree with you. I see some of the dunking that happens online, and it's one thing to have negative feedback or criticism that is constructive. It's another just to be negative for the sake of negativity.
Right. And to sort of impugn on the developers that they're somehow evil people because they didn't make the game exactly the way you wanted it.
Yeah.
That's like, switch to decaf, people. Take a chill. It'll be all right. Yeah, I hope so. I hope if we can make it more attainable to people who are, you know, they have a great idea, but, you know, maybe they can't code, or maybe they can't do art, or, you know, how can we give them tools that will allow them to cover off of some of those areas and just try to get their idea out. I think, you know, communities of people working together is one way to get around it. I think the indie community could use a bit more collaboration amongst themselves. I think there's more safety in numbers, more strength in numbers by doing that. I know there's some companies out, some small publishers across America now who are, you know, leaning into that, trying to create this collaboration effort for independent developers, and I would certainly support those activities where I see them.
Agreed. Tyrone just finished making his own game, so shout out to you, Tyrone.
Hey, Tyrone.
We wish you the best of luck. I've seen in other industries where the concept of like co-ops, where it's like almost like a consortium of employees who collectively own a company. I don't know if I've ever seen that in the gaming industry. I wonder if you have, and if not, is that something that could be helpful, maybe to reduce A, crunch, B, layoffs, C, toxicity, like all the things. Like if people who are working in the companies also own the company, then I feel like that makes it more equitable and less toxic.
Well, certainly I think you see that team formation in a lot of independent studios. because everyone dug in their pocket and pulled out a few $1,000s and threw it on a table, and here we go, let's go make a game. At the high end, you don't. I mean, I do think there's like the United Artists model, which came to the movies in the 40s and the 50s, trying to disassociate or disentangle the talent from the movie studio itself. So the movie studio doesn't own all the assets, but they contract them for artists and directors and scripts and stuff like that. So I think allowing people to really own the value of their labor as they contribute into a game project, more of that is good. That's better. There's talks of unionization now in the gaming world, and that's an important one. Yeah. We have to make the workplace safe and respectful. People should just do that for being, by being human beings. Right? You shouldn't have to have someone tell you to be considerate of others, but please get there on your own, folks. You can figure it out. And by leaning on each other to try to make a bigger thing, pull more people together, share ownership. I think these are all new models that we're looking at in gaming. The model really hasn't changed in 40 years, but it's starting to move now, and I think that's appropriate.
So hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, I do too.
He'd like to see some more experiences from game developers. So Tyrone, I appreciate that feedback, that constructive criticism. Perfect example. Thank you for leading by example. I'd like to get some more game developers on the podcast and talk a little bit more about that process so that we can enlighten more people. It wasn't taught in school for me. There was coding, but there was not game development. So I think that needs to. I would like to see more of that. So what you just described, Tyrone, but happening in schools where you have, I don't know, career day, have game developers come in and make that part of the educational process. Yeah,
and certainly in schools, it's not hard to get students excited about video gaming. And it's really, get young people to make games in Minecraft or Roblox and then learn how to do some simple Unity coding and that type of thing. It's really the gaming can be the gateway drug to science, tech, engineering, and mathematics.
I tell parents that all the time. I was inspired by experience I had when I was in the 9th grade. I was making my own game. My brother and I were making a game on a TI-83 Plus graphing calculator. And our parents were at the same time trying to motivate and encourage. And I say that, with all due respect and love and care. But really, they were really excited about us learning to code because the internet was just becoming a commercial thing in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I had no interest in learning to code to build like Web 1.0 websites like GeoCities. That wasn't of interest to me. But then I learned that we could put video games on the calculator and it basically turned it into a makeshift Game Boy. That was super exciting for me.
Right.
And then in the process of trying to get games from other people, I don't know where we got those first games from. I learned that we were basically transferring code back and forth, and so that the games are made with code. So if I wanted to play more games, I needed to teach myself to code. So while I had these 3 reference manuals that were each like 500 pages of one for HTML, one for CSS, one for JavaScript that I was not reading from my parents, I was actively researching like how to write Visual Basic. My brother and I were trying to make a Zelda clone. And unfortunately, we were spending a lot of time in trigonometry playing games instead of listening as well. But we were also building our games, but our teacher didn't either understand or connect the value. So while we were at lunch, she went to everyone's desk and deleted the memory off the calculator.
Oh my God.
Permanently deleted our game.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, we've come a long way.
We have. And it also inspired me to make this book. I've got a digital version available for free, but it's the book that I wish that I had when I was in high school, playing video games as much as possible, but not being able to communicate the value of that to my parents or to my teachers. And then now as a working professional, as a consultant, I'm having the same conversations about the value of gaming and esports to business leaders and community leaders. And so the book is that for me. It's all that information in one place.
Well, is that available in a finer retail booksellers near me, or?
It's in Amazon. I'm happy to send you a copy. I have several still in my garage. I'd be honored to send you one.
Oh, Marcus, I'd be well appreciative of that.
Yeah, and then A, because I want you to have a copy of it. B, the book was so valuable apparently that actually I had 50 copies of it stolen in transit. Like when I was mailing it to people, they were getting boosted in transit, and they ended up on Amazon under secondary retailers.
Oh my
So I
God.
actually just generally just stopped shipping the book because I got tired of having to refund purchases and
Yeah,
people seeing my book like being basically like scalped.
that's crazy. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either until I experienced it. But I'm happy to mail you a physical copy and send you a digital one in the meantime. If
Terrific.
all goes well, I'll be making volume 2 next year. You're welcome to be in the book if you'd like.
Shall we talk about that? We can take that offline.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you are not doing too much in the gaming space as a consumer side next year, but you are volunteering with nonprofits. You
Yeah.
are advising startups. What else are you most excited for as an ecosystem moving into the next year?
Well, I'm hoping the next year we'll see a bit of stability in the game development community. Maybe we've had all of our bad news over the last 18 months of studio closures or massive layoffs, and maybe we've reached some kind of equilibrium now. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I look forward to. I went to Gamescom Asia last month. I spoke at that conference, and I gotta say, the energy outside of our sort of Western bubble or our Western Japanese bubble of gaming, outside that, it's infectious. They're folks are so thrilled for the games they're making, and for getting a chance to see some of their development heroes, and the new ideas coming out of, for example, China or Southeast Asia, like Black Myth Wukong. No one saw that coming, and all of a sudden it arrived, and people thought that was amazing. That was a huge boost to a lot of the Asian game developer community who realized that, so we can break through, we can get out, we can find even a wider audience. So it's very uplifting for them. I could feel that energy when I was in Singapore, and I'll be going over to Europe earlier in the year to talk at another conference. And it's just great to get out in the world and see where gaming is landing and where it's being appreciated, all over the globe. Sometimes in our bubble here, certainly in Silicon Valley, we can get into the gloom and doom view about gaming. It's like, oh my, it's all collapsing and all the projects are being canceled, and I can't get funding. But it was good for me to go outside my bubble and see the rest of the world, and that the gaming is catching fire throughout Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia. South America has got some amazing game development teams going on, and even in parts of Africa, I understand Microsoft has got some programs kicking off there. So that's what I mean when we talk about getting more people making games, to get more people playing games. A lot of that activity is going to happen outside the usual suspects of Europe, America, and Japan.
Yeah. So I guess that means even more or a higher volume of mobile games, because as a device, it's more accessible than multi-$100 console or multi-$1,000 PC setup.
Yeah, and a lot of those games will stay in that area. They'll stay in mobile or they stay on PC, but then you have the developers who do want to break out and see if they can be successful in console gaming and what that means. And I want to see more of that. We definitely need more variety.
Awesome. I don't play a lot of mobile games. I would love to see like that one game, the swimming game, Dave the Diver, be on mobile. I don't think it's on mobile yet.
I don't think so. No.
I own that on. I've just recently got it on PC because it was on the Steam sale, and I had it on the Switch. But I think that's something that would, if the form factor could be, like you said, transferred properly, would lend itself well to something you could do for 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah, and you talk about Steam or the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store or iTunes or what have you. I miss the days when you could go down to GameStop and talk to the store manager and get some advice on, dude, what's hot? What should I be playing? What am I missing? And have that kind of a community of like-minded gaming individuals to talk about these things. But now we're pretty much reduced to just digital storefronts and downloading all of our content. And I'm sad for losing that piece of going into retail and talking to an employee about game releases and learning from that experience. Now it's just these huge digital stores where discovery is the hardest thing of all. It's the games are out there. Just how do you find them, or how do they find you? How do
Yep.
they jump out and get your attention? And by having just a handful of gatekeepers at the digital storefront, I think is making it difficult uh, for wider promotion of the knowledge of what games are out there and what's coming and what's going on. Um, I would like to see more storefronts, more ways for developers to, you know, uh, uh, present their games directly to consumers for purchase, rather
You're
than
right. It's a
having it
challenge.
gate kept by 4 or 5 large publishing concerns.
Well, hopefully we'll see some of that next year as well. That's
Yeah,
how
I'd
I
like to
actually
see
got
that.
into the industry. My twin brother and I built a platform called Project MQ. It's exclusively focused around solving discoverability.
Mm,
Um, the vision was for it to be platform agnostic, but we started on Steam because I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with Steam Spy. Like we
yeah.
needed. That's where the most freely accessible data about games existed, was in the PC ecosystem.
Hmm.
We were able to discover amazing games and help support their success. One of those was Dead Cells from Motion Twin.
Hmm.
But what we learned very quickly was that storing and serving multimedia, lots of multimedia, can get very expensive quickly.
Yes.
And it was literally about to bankrupt us. We were weeks where we would just eat popcorn. So we shifted away from that.
Yeah, that's another reality of it too, right? So the
Yeah.
costs associated with that, uh, it's hard just to spin one of those up in your backyard. I get it.
Do you think we'll see more incubators, like digital incubators? Because one of the other experiences that I had working with Project MQ was that most indie studios I worked with saw their game more as an art and less of a business slash
Hmm.
product. So
Hmm.
yeah, the joke I would constantly hear is like, "Hey, we launched our game. When should we start marketing?" And the punchline is like 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah, you're already too late.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a lot. There's a couple of incubators that came online last year. Trying to create a place where, to your point, I've got a game, I've got a developer, I've got this thing, and the other thing, but I don't really know how do I do a contract, or
Mm.
who signs what, and who do I talk to, and is really 12% a good number, or should I go for 18%? Things like that people don't understand the dynamics around it. I think it's good to have um, those resources available to them at a sort of collaboration level, kind of doing pro bono work, helping people
Mm.
understand how to read a contract and when not to sign and things like that. So I'd like to see more of this year as well. And I think once again, with so many people moving away or having been let go from different publishers in the industry, there's a lot of unattached talent out there that have the freedom now to share those experiences and skills with other developers.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see more of that, because then we can see more
Yeah,
successful games, and that's healthy for the industry as a whole. Um,
absolutely.
we're closing up to an hour here, so I have a couple more questions just to
Okay.
close the loop on what you said at the beginning of our conversation. You talked about starting as a producer and moving to Japan, and not having really played games beforehand. What are your thoughts on other people following that path,
Well,
where breaking into the industry where they don't have games experience?
well, I had played games. That wasn't
Well,
the
sorry,
problem.
sorry,
I
not
just
not
I
not
never
not
made one.
played games experience,
Yeah.
right? But made games. Sorry about that.
No, I think I talked to a lot of people who want to get into the game industry, and they go, "Well, I'm not a programmer, and I'm not an artist, and I don't know how to write a story. So how can I be in games?" And it's kind of obvious, but I just have to explain to folks: the gaming industry is a proper industry. It's a full-throated, full-blown industry, which means you can be in the gaming industry in even by not being a game developer.
Yeah.
Right? There's salespeople, there's marketing people, there's HR, there's supply chain, there's IT. Everything that a major industry would have, it's available in gaming as well. So you can participate in this world um, and be in the finance department, and it's okay because it's important. So please don't let your own lack of technical skills steer you away from the business. There's a lot of other roles to play. Sales and marketing, super important, because if we can't sell the thing, then we have a different problem entirely. So if you want to get into the game development piece, it really is a lot of still kind of self-taught. You have to have a lot of gumption innovation, Marcus, like you and your brother kind of did it on your own. There's a lot of that going on. There are some programs at universities, if you have the ability to go and seek them out, that can help you. Um, and then it's a lot of just footwork, knocking on a lot of doors, and trying to connect with other people in the industry and to help one another out.
Well, I'm sure that's helpful for Tyrone and everyone else who's watching the video.
Yeah, there's no easy answer. How do you get in?
There's no easy answer. It's the work.
It's the work. Yeah.
Reflecting on your career, what if you could share like one piece of advice that you wish you could have told yourself or someone would have told you when you were first starting, or just something that sticks out to you that you impart when you speak to students or at conferences?
I should have bought Apple in 1995. I want to go back and tell myself that. One thing I do talk to a lot of people about, and it's kind of my story through my life at Sony. I went to Sony as a diversity hire. I went there, they put me in the PR department. I'd never done public relations before, but it's talking to people, telling a story, getting them to believe you. Then I got called by the chairman's office at Sony, where Akio Morita, the founder, was still the CEO, and said, "We want you to come up and be speechwriter and ghostwriter for the chairman." Again, something I'd never done before, but you just realize other people do it. So, it can't be that hard if you just do the work and figure it out. And every move along the line from that was, we talked earlier, I'd never made a video game before, but we're going to figure out how to be a video game producer. And from there, it's go to Europe and integrate an acquisition asset. Okay. Go back to Japan and be CEO of domestic sales and marketing in Japan, even though you're an American. Okay. How hard could it be? So the advice I give a lot of young people, students I talk to, is just have the courage to say yes. Don't say, I don't think I can do that, or I don't have that experience, or I'm not sure I can succeed. Just say yes. You can always change your mind later. But if you say no, you can't. Yeah. You just close that door when you say no. So say yes. Sometimes you're going to end up flat on your face, but hopefully you'll learn something from it. And there's no challenge out there that is beyond your ability to succeed. It is just like you said earlier. Just do the work, and be of good faith. Assume people have good intentions when they're trying to help you or trying to work with you, and don't take yourself too seriously.
That's excellent advice. Thanks for sharing. and if you don't mind, I want to make a clip of that advice. We'll share that out in different channels.
Okay.
I appreciate your time. I want to make sure that you have this opportunity to share what you're working on or how people can find you or connect. Like where can people go to support you moving into the future?
Well, you can find me over on Blue Sky because I'm trying to get off my Twitter thing. So you want to see what I'm talking about or doing, it'll happen over there. But if you want to look at the thing that's really important to me right now this year, is do look for Girls Make Games. You can just Google that, Girls Make Games. And we'd appreciate your support. It's that time of year, the charity giving time of year. We have our scholarships we have to fund and the programs that we do. But it's been an amazing journey for me to work with Layla Shabir, who founded Girls Make Games, and the intensity and the passion that they have for teaching young women coding skills when they're still in grammar school. And that will serve them for life. And we're really, really happy to be part of that. So check me out over there.
Okay, excellent. Well, Sean, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for volunteering to be part of the game earlier. We'll have a rematch. We'll just have time to practice identifying same type of object.
let's do Pong next time or something like that.
Pong, yeah, right. Something with a few less things moving on the screen.
Age appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, age appropriate. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you. I will definitely share some links out for Girls Make Games.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. All right.
Likewise to you, Marcus.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you probably in 2025. It's getting close to the holiday season here. So when I'm spending time with family, I invite you all to do the same. And we'll see you soon. Peace.